class, it's Miss Miller here, and today what I'd like to do is talk to you about this idea of a theme. Now, most recently you took an assessment online about a week or so ago where you were asked to identify a theme and to provide evidence. So this week, what I'd like to do is spend some time talking about what a theme is. Before you saw it in a short story, but themes also exist in poetry, and in our case, when we read The Old Man and the Sea, we're going to be looking for the multiple themes that exist there as well. A theme is best defined as the central idea of a literary work. It can be a major theme, which is the big idea of the entire piece from beginning, middle to end. Or it can be a minor theme, which we may only see the idea expressed in the very initial or early stages of a reading, or just at the end, but nevertheless is still present in the text. A theme can be stated directly or indirectly. If the theme is stated directly, then maybe the narrator or a character has been assigned to express this idea, and they may say it outright, and typically this occurs towards the end of the text. If the theme is stated indirectly, then this is perhaps something that we have to figure out on our own. An author will usually present multiple subjects or topics to introduce their theme, and they'll use characters or the narrator or the conflict or figurative language to help develop this idea of the theme. One way to sort of help discover the theme or the central idea of a reading is to really follow the protagonists in the reading. So, for example, we might follow Santiago in The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway and sort of observe his behavior, his speech, his action, his conflict that he experiences. Just observe his interactions with other characters, see if there's any lessons that he might learn. And so this can help us to sort of frame our idea or the theme for a piece of work. Keep in mind that the theme of a novel or the themes really reveal the author's perception of human nature or human motivation or the human condition or even the human ambition. It doesn't necessarily mean that Ernest Hemingway or the author is accurate. It just means this is his perception about life and how it works. You should also note that a theme should be universal, and what I mean by that is you should avoid including the name of the author. This is when you step away from the text. We don't want to hear about the name of the character or specific events in the actual theme. So you do want to step away from the text, and really the character should be symbolic of mankind or people in general, and that's how you want to state your theme. One of the misconceptions that many students has as it relates to the theme is that they assume that it's just a single word. Like, for example, if you think about the ideas expressed in Ernest Hemingway's The Old Man and the Sea, we might think, well, you know what, they do talk about pride, and they do address this idea or concept of perseverance or friendship, isolation or suffering. But the theme is not limited to that one word. That's just the idea that the theme stems from. It's our job as a reader to determine what is it that Hemingway wants to tell us about pride through this character. We discover it that way. What does he want us to know about perseverance or friendship and isolation? What specifically does he want us to learn about suffering in terms of the theme? Now, the theme really just gives us some insight into how the world works. And again, this is from the author's point of view. And how do we view human life? And one of the reasons why some books last as long as they do, they're part of the literary canon, is because they're very complex and their themes are layered. There are multiple themes. There's always going to be more than one theme in any book. You want to avoid it being a shallow text so that it can last over a long period of time. But in essence, the theme is just a big idea. It's universal. It's the human experience. And there are no cultural boundaries when it comes to the theme. It really is also like the moral lesson, the message, the meaning. It is so much bigger than the book. And remember, again, it's just the opinion about a subject. We also, when we're writing out our thematic statement, we want to avoid being too obvious. And our theme needs to be something that is debatable, and it should be a reflection of the world. And sometimes I look at the theme as the book is sort of talking in a code, and we have to break that code to determine the theme of the text. So as we work to develop the theme from The Old Man and the Sea, we need to be able to pull up specific examples or pieces of evidence to support us in our analysis. So for example, we may put together several different quotes or evidence or pieces of examples from the text as it relates to suffering. And after we look at, maybe several examples, maybe 5 or 6, we can try to say, okay, now between that and the character and the symbols and the conflict, what is it that Hemingway or the author wants us to know about this particular subject? So you always want to have your theme grounded in evidence. And really, everyone may have a different theme. We may all read the same text and discuss suffering, but everyone has a different interpretation. And as long as you can back it up with meaningful evidence from the text to support your theory, then you are correct. So you want to evaluate the protagonist, and sometimes you want to see, did it turn out good for the protagonist? Or how did things turn out? What should we do? What should we avoid? Did things turn out bad for our protagonist? Should we avoid something? The other thing you want to think about is the conflict in a text. Is it man versus man? Is he struggling with another character? Is it man versus society? Is it man versus nature? In our case, we have the man and the sea, right? So perhaps it would be nature. And in some cases, is it man versus self? And we know from our own experiences that sometimes we're the ones that are struggling with our own inner conflict. So you want to consider the conflict as it relates to the theme as well. You also want to avoid any absolutes. So don't say all people or everyone. You probably want to say something along of most people, oftentimes. So when you create that thematic statement, you take your topic, you think about the character, you think about the conflict, the symbols, and you want to make general assumptions or observations and commentary to create that statement. Now, all this talk about what is a theme in a literary work has you probably wondering, what exactly does this look like? Well, when you construct this statement, you've got this thematic statement, it looks very much like this. Let's take, for example, William Golding's Lord of the Flies. Now, in this text, he has a bunch of kids, and they're left on this island, and they end up hurting each other. And so the thematic statement in this case might be, when left to their own devices, people or mankind in general are inherently evil. And that's it. That's the thematic statement. That's the theme, or one of the many themes in a particular text.